We're going to be doing a special birthday trip along US 21. Come on, let's go. Alright everyone, today for my brother's birthday, we're going to be doing US Highway 21. US 21 runs in the Carolinas and a little bit in Virginia. And in northern North Carolina and in Virginia, it is actually a very scenic highway, as you can see here. It also has a overlook in northern North Carolina, and mainly follows Interstate 77 from basically Elkin all the way down to Columbia. So, let us get started with this special US Highway 21 video. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free Azure request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US 21 as it starts just south of Beaufort, South Carolina, and travels all the way up to Wytheville, Virginia at a junction of US 52 and Interstate 81. So with that, we're talking about northbound US 21. So we begin here on Hunting Island State Park, where we don't have a begin US 21 northbound shield. All we just get is this road here, which will take us back into mainland South Carolina. Here we cross over the Harbor River here on this little causeway bridge as we're going to be heading into Beaufort. And our first major junction here in the city of Beaufort is South Carolina 802, along with Business US 21. Business 21 will take you to downtown, while we're going to be staying on Mainline 21 heading around the city. Always up the road, we're now passing by Paris Island, which is home to the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, so that is pretty cool. We also passed by US 21 Seafood and Bar, so if you like seafood, then check out this place. I'm not personally a big fan of seafood, but I do like finding places that are named after the highway we're on. We also passed by the Beaufort Marine Corps Air Station here, so that's pretty cool. We also meet South Carolina 116 at that same junction, and we're now getting signed for Charleston and Columbia, which are awesome choices. And then up the road, we're now joining with US Highway 17 for a little bit, and you can check out our US 17 tiers in the top right corner here, while we're going to be following 17 south heading towards Savannah, which is an awesome choice. Though we actually don't make it to Savannah, we actually split off from US 17 to join 17 alternate to head toward the MSC, which actually used to be 21's southern terminus before it was extended down to Beaufort and Hunting Island State Park. Here we meet South Carolina Highway 68, and we're now getting signed for Walterboro, which I think is an alright choice because Walterboro is a sizable place and is the southern terminus of US Highway 15. And then once again, we do not make it to Walterboro, that's where US 17 alternate will be going, and we're now signed north for Smokes. I do not like that choice at all. That should be Orangeburg, because Smokes only has like a population of 200 something people in it. And I don't like seeing places that small being signed on US highways, or interstates even. Here we meet Interstate 95, which is being signed for Savannah and Florence respectively. I like that southbound control, but that northbound should probably be Charleston because of Interstate 26. We don't need Florence being signed. And here we have a picture taken by Ryan Golden as she passed by this exit a couple months ago, and we can see that US 21 is being signed for Orangeburg, which is an awesome choice. In fact, we get a one-liner after passing by Interstate 95 being signed for Orangeburg from 54 miles away. But at the South Carolina 63 junction here, we're now getting signed for Branchville, which is At least it's better than Smokes, but I would prefer to see Orangeburg and Branchville here. Oh yeah, you know how we were getting signed for Smokes at that US 17 alternate junction? Yeah, this is the entire town of Smokes. This is what we were being signed for at the US 17 alternate split. Come on now, South Carolina. Anyways, here in Branchville, we're now meeting with US Highway 78, and we're now getting signed for Orangeburg and Columbia, which are awesome choices. And here, skipping ahead to Orangeburg, we're now going to be joining with US 178, as we're now getting signed for Columbia, which is awesome. Here we meet with US Highway 301, which will take you north to Santee. I'm iffy about Santee, but I do like that Columbia here. Also, we are heading due north, so that is a fun little unique town. Then once we meet US Highway 601, that is the road that would take you to Columbia, because 601 also meets Interstate 26, while we're just favoring US 178 here, which kind of makes sense. And then here we split off from US 178, as we're also now getting signed for Columbia, because we're also going to be meeting Interstate 26 soon. And our next mileage time, we now get Swansea on the top line from 12 miles away, and Columbia still as our primary, so that is awesome. Here we meet Interstate 26 for the first time, and it's being signed for Columbia and Charleston respectively. And now we're going to be joining with US Highway 176, as us two are now going to be heading north towards Columbia. Here we meet with Interstate 26 once again, and this is the only portion of US 21 that I've been on. I took this exit back in November with my brother to stop at a gas station off of US 21 and 176. And here's my picture of the US 21 and US 176 exit being signed for Dixiana. I do not like that choice at all. If you want to sign something for US 21 and 176, how about Swansea instead? Dixiana is just the area that we're meeting US 321 at. In fact, in our next mileage time, we now get Dixiana from 3 miles away, with the state's farmer market being our secondary from 2. Are we having the 17 alternate mileage time once again? Because I do not like seeing this. Anyways, here in the Dixiana area, we meet with US 321, and we're now all going to be concurrent as we head north towards Columbia. On the outskirts of Columbia, we meet with Interstate 26 for a third time, and we also meet the southern terminus of Interstate 77, which will take you up to Charlotte. And here we meet with Interstate 26 once again, as it's been signed for Charleston going eastbound, and the Upstate Metro going westbound. And here is my picture of the 21, 176, and 321 exit, and we can see that Interstate 26 is being signed for Spartanburg. Here in the downtown Columbia area, we're meeting US 1 and 378, but this direction on US 21 and 321 and 176, they give us no shields here. The only thing that they tell us that we're going to be meeting Interstate 126 soon. Like, come on, man. Here we're now going to be joining with US Highway 76, as we're also going to be joining with a business Interstate 126 to head into downtown Columbia. Here we split off from US Highway 76, as US 76 will be heading to Sumter, while we're going to be heading out of the city of Columbia to other places. Here at this junction, we're now getting signed for Winnsboro and Charlotte, which are awesome choices. I do like seeing that Charlotte there from almost 100 miles away. Here's where US 321 splits off from US 21 to head north towards Winnsboro, or we're going to be heading north towards Charlotte and other places. Here we meet with Interstate 20, getting signed for Florence and Augusta respectively. And this here is where we start our parallelization to Interstate 77, as 77 is being signed for Charlotte and Columbia respectively. And on Interstate 77, we're now being signed north for Blythewood, which I think is an alright choice. It's a decently sized town with like 4,000 people. But this here is in Ridgeland, South Carolina. We're meeting with South Carolina Highway 34 here, and we're now going to be continuing north toward Charlotte still. In fact, our next mileage time, we actually get Charlotte as our primary from 72 miles away, and Great Falls is our next town that we'll be passing through. Here in Great Falls, or outside of Great Falls on the South Carolina 200 concurrency, we're now getting signed for Rock Hill from 37 miles away. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense because if you want to get to Charlotte, it'd be better to stay on Interstate 77. So, and plus Rock Hill is a pretty sizable place in northern South Carolina. And here's where we split off from South Carolina 97 and 200 as we're now getting signed for Rock Hill and Charlotte. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Rock Hill and Charlotte from 51 miles away. This here we're meeting with South Carolina Highway 9 as it's getting signed for Lancaster and Chester, while we're not getting signed for Rock Hill still. And we get the same mileage time that we saw going as we're heading north towards Charlotte still. And here in the Rock Hill area, we meet with Interstate 77 once again, and it just gets the same control cities. And we also meet with South Carolina 121 and South Carolina Highway 5. And South Carolina 121 is actually part of a network of State Highway 121. So I don't know why that AASHTO can just upgrade it to US 121 instead of making a brand new 121 in West Virginia. And here we meet with South Carolina Highway 160 here in Rock Hill, and this junction was requested by East Coast Reviews, so thank you for that request. And as in the Carowinds area, we're going to be joining with Interstate 77 as we head north into North Carolina and the city of Charlotte. And we can see that Carowinds is also in the background here. Here we are entering into the state of North Carolina. Oh no, let's see what North Carolina has to offer on US 21. And our first major junction here in North Carolina is Interstate 485 as we're concurrent with Interstate 77 here. And we can see that 485 is getting a couple of Charlotte suburbs, which are okay. And then here we meet Interstate 277 a ways up the road, which is the downtown inner loop, and we just get a couple of Kentucky treatments here. I mean, kind of makes sense because it is the inner loop for downtown. And here we meet Interstate 277 once again, along with North Carolina Highway 16. And North Carolina 16 is also part of a network of state highways numbered 16 that connects Charlotte all the way up to northern West Virginia. And here's the start of the Interstate 77 express lanes here in the Charlotte metro area. And now we're meeting with Interstate 85 being signed for Spartanburg and Greenflower respectively. But we all know what truly happens on Interstate 85 if you want to check out my Interstate 85 series in the top right corner here. And here's where US 21 splits off from Interstate 77 to join Sunset Road here. And yes, I would definitely love to sunset that Statesville northbound control city for Interstate 77. How about Wytheville or Asheville because of Interstate 40 westbound? I do not like seeing that Statesville there. Here on Sunset Road, we meet with North Carolina Highway 24 here. And here we go under Interstate 485 because we do not have a direct interchange with it. Instead, we had to take some sort of extra road to get onto Interstate 485 here. And then here in Huntersville, we meet with North Carolina Highway 73 here, which will take you over to Interstate 77. And US 21 is going to continue north towards Lake Norman here. And I do have a nitpick about North Carolina Highway 73. So, recently, North Carolina 42 was changed to North Carolina 36 because it might cause confusion for current Interstate 42. But here's the thing, North Carolina 73 also meets Interstate 73 outside of Charlotte here, so I don't know why NCDOT did not decide to change North Carolina 73 when it meets Interstate 73, but they changed North Carolina 42 when it meets Interstate 42. Like, come on, man. Why don't you also change North Carolina 73? Like, that just aggravates me. Anyways, a little ways up the road, outside of Cornelius, we're going to be rejoining with Interstate 77 as we head north towards Statesville. Statesville is fine where US 21, but not for Interstate 77. And after crossing Lake Norman here, US 21 splits off from Interstate 77. And on that ramp, we're now getting signed for Mount Morn and Mooresville. So why wasn't like one of those places on that exit sign earlier in CDOT? Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 150 here in the town of Mooresville. And we're also always up the road. We're now meeting with North Carolina Highway 115, and we're now getting signed for Statesville, which, like I said earlier, is fine for US 21. Here outside of Statesville, we meet with US Highway 70, which will take you over to Interstate 77, while US 21 is continuing north into downtown Statesville. Here in downtown, we are going to be joining with US Highway 64, and we're also going to be leaving North Carolina Highway 115 here. And a ways down the road, we split off from US Highway 64 as we're going to be heading north towards Interstate 40. And also in Statesville, we meet with Interstate 40 here, getting signed for Winston-Salem and Asheville respectively, while US 21 gets nothing for northbound. So let us look on Interstate 40. We can see that we're getting signed for Statesville, but that's for southbound. But way back when this was just a normal interchange, we can see that we're getting signed for Harmony, which was an alright choice. But luckily they did change that Hickory for westbound 40 to Asheville, so that was good too. And here we have the Circle K here in downtown Statesville, and this gas station was requested by Florida Man, so thank you for that request. And here we meet with Interstate 77 once again, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Turnersburg, which I do not like at all. That is an unincorporated community, and that should be Harmony instead, because in Harmony, it's a decently sized town, and we meet North Carolina 901 there. We do not meet anything in Turnersburg, and plus it's an afterthought here. Like, did they seriously not have any room to put it on this sign? Come on, NC-DOT. Here in Harmony, we meet with North Carolina 901, and we're now getting signed for Elkin, which is a good choice. Here we meet with US Highway 421, just outside of Elkin, and it's getting signed for Wilkesboro and Winston-Salem respectively. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 77 here, and we can see that the mountains are looming in the background, which is just absolutely amazing. Here we split off from Interstate 77, and it's going to sign north for Mount Airy. That should be Wytheville, not Mount Airy. I mean, I know that Mount Airy is a famous place because of the Andy Griffith show, but it does not need to be a control city on Interstate 77. While 21 is now getting signed for Roaring Gap and Sparta, which I think are alright choices. And on our way to Sparta, we actually get a overlook here. And look at this amazing scenic view. That is awesome. And still in the Roaring Gap area, we actually also meet the Blue Ridge Parkway. So let us see what we're signed for on the BRP. We're getting signed for Sparta still, which is a good choice. Also, we're now 23 miles north of Elkin, so that is pretty far. Here in downtown Sparta, we meet with North Carolina Highway 18, and US 21 is going to continue north into more mountains and into the state of Virginia. Here we are meeting with US Highway 221, another one of our child routes, and we're now going to be heading north towards Independence, Virginia. And here we are entering into the state of Virginia, and it's been a while since we've actually been to this state. And our first mileage time, we now get Bluefield as our primary from 80 miles away. I would prefer to see Roanoke instead because that's where US 221 goes, but I'm guessing that this mileage time was put up when US 21 went up to Cleveland. I do not like that Bluefield at all. It does not need to be signed from this far away. Here in Independence, we used US 221 to join with US Highway 58, as we're now being signed for Wytheville still. And here we get another mileage sign, and we still get Bluefield as our primary from 76 miles away. I do not like that. Like I said, I do not like that choice at all. That should definitely be Roanoke because we're going to be meeting US 11 in Wytheville. And skipping ahead to the Wytheville area, we're now going to be joined with US Highway 11, and US 11 and 21 are going to be concurrent here. Also, I do have a question. Why does US 21 have a short concurrency with US 11? Why can't it just end here instead of at the 52 and 81 junction? It would make more logical sense. Anyways, here we go through downtown Wytheville, and it actually looks like a pretty nice place. Anyways, up the road, we're now going to be ending here at Interstate 81, being signed for Bristol and Roanoke respectively. And this is where US 52 splits off from Interstate 81 to continue north into the Appalachian Mountains. And this is where we shall end US 21. Sadly, VDOT does not give us an end US 21 shield. So with that, we'll be turning right and doing southbound US 21. So we begin here on Interstate 81 itself, where we have both US 21 and US 52 being signed for Wytheville. And on the bottom of the ramp, we do get a mention of US Highway 21, which will also take you into downtown Wytheville. Here's where US 21 joins with US Highway 11, as those two highways are going to be heading through downtown Wytheville. And here's where US 21 splits off from US Highway 11, as US 11 is going to be paralleling Interstate 81. And here we get our first mileage sign, and we get Statesville from 99 miles away. I mean, it's better to see Statesville being signed from this far away on US 21 than it is compared to Interstate 77, so at least there's that. Plus, I do like that mention of Elkin being our secondary. And as we're heading towards Independence, we just get some awesome scenic views along this 2-lane rural highway. I mean, this is actually our opening shot here, so that's pretty awesome. Here in Independence, we reunite with US 221 and 221 and 21. We're going to be heading south towards North Carolina. And at that junction, we're now getting signed for Sparta, which is a good choice. And here we are entering into the state of North Carolina. And here we split off from US 221 as we're now getting signed south for Sparta, while 221 will be heading towards Jefferson. Here in downtown Sparta, we meet with North Carolina Highway 18 once again. And here we actually get a one-liner with Elkin from 29 miles away, so that is awesome. And here we meet with the Blue Ridge Parkway once again. And skipping ahead down to the Elkin area, we have a business route, and we're going to be following the bypass route as we're now getting signed for Statesville. I mean, yes, that is a good choice for US 21, but in theory, that's actually for Interstate 77, which, again, nobody likes. Here we are merging into Interstate 77 as we head south towards Harmony and Statesville. Here's where we're splitting off from Interstate 77 as we're now getting signed for Jonesville. That's actually for business US 21, while 21 South does not get anything. That should be Jonesville and Harmony. Here we meet with 421 being signed for Winston-Salem, while US 21 proper is being signed for Statesville, which is an awesome choice. Outside of Statesville, we meet with Interstate 77 as it's being signed for Statesville. I mean, here it should now be starting to get signed for Charlotte because US 21 actually goes into downtown Statesville. Yes, I know it's actually faster to take 77 down to Statesville, but US 21 goes into downtown. 77 should be signed for Charlotte, basically since the 81 split. No need for it to be signed for Statesville. Here we meet with Interstate 40 once again, and we now get South 21 for Statesville. Here we reunite with US Highway 64 for a bit. And in downtown Statesville, we split off from US Highway 21 to parallel Interstate 77. Here we meet with US Highway 70 on the outskirts of Statesville. And here in Mooresville, once again, we meet with North Carolina Highway 150, which will take you to downtown Mooresville. And here we reunite with Interstate 77 as we're now heading south toward Charlotte, which is a great choice. And here is an awesome view of Lake Norman I'd like to check this lake out someday. And we're now splitting off from Interstate 77 as we're now getting signed for Cornelius and Lake Norman. Lake Norman is actually north of here, so I don't know why it's on this exit sign. And then here in Huntersville, we meet with North Carolina 73 once again. I'm still a little bit mad about that. And here we go under Interstate 485 and here we meet with North Carolina Highway 24. And we're now going to be joining with Interstate 77 as we head towards downtown Charlotte. And we meet with Interstate 85 getting signed for Greensboro and Spartanburg once again, as we're now getting signed south for Charlottesville because we haven't made it to downtown. Here we meet Interstate 77 or the downtown loop, and we can see that the express lanes are also ending here at the 277 exit. Here we get an awesome view of the Charlotte skyline here. Again, I still like to visit this city one day. I've been through it multiple times, but I've never been to downtown Charlotte. Here we meet with Interstate 277 once again, and we're now also being signed for Columbia, which is a good choice. Also we meet with US Highway 74 too, so that's cool. Here we meet with Interstate 485, and this time we do have a direct interchange with it. And fun fact, Interstate 4, this junction here is the only stack interchange in the entirety of North Carolina. So that's awesome. And we're now entering into South Carolina, so let us see what South Carolina has to offer on southbound US 21. And right away we split off from Interstate 77 as we just get the Kentucky treatment here, which I do not like. But on the ramp, we can see that 21 is being signed for Pineville and Rock Hill, which are great choices. Also, I don't know why they wrote out North Carolina 49 when they can just give a North Carolina 49 shield here. Here in Rock Hill, we meet with South Carolina 5 and 121, and we can see that there's a sign up in here, so let us see what it says. We're now getting signed for Lancaster and Columbia, which are awesome choices. Well done, South Carolina. Our next Malectron, we actually get Great Falls as our secondary and Columbia as our primary from 65 miles away. Here we meet with South Carolina Highway 9 in Fort Vaughn, and we're still getting signed for Columbia. In fact, we get a one-liner for Columbia from 53 miles away. Here in Ridgeway, we meet with South Carolina Highway 34, and we're now getting signed for Camden and Columbia, because we have a short concurrency with South Carolina 34. And on the outskirts of Columbia, we actually meet with South Carolina Highway 555 here, which is a pretty interesting numbered road. And here we say goodbye to Interstate 77 as it's being signed for Columbia and Charlotte respectively. And here we meet with Interstate 20 being signed for Florence and Augusta. And now we're reuniting with US Highway 321 as 321 and 21 are going to be heading into downtown Columbia. And here we reunite with US Highway 176, and our control city is now signed for Sumter, which I think is an alright choice, favoring US 76. Well, Sumter is a pretty famous place too. Here we split off from US Highway 76 and Interstate 126 as we just get Huger Street, which alright because we still haven't made it to downtown proper yet. And this time around, we do get shields for US 1 and 378. So how come you couldn't give us them on northbound in South Carolina? Anyways, skipping ahead to the Interstate 26 junction, we can see that 26 is being signed for Charleston and Spartanburg respectively. And we can see that US 3, 21, 21, and 176 are getting signed for something here. We're getting signed for Swansea. I mean, at least it's better than Dixiana, so I give them credit for that. Here's the southern terminus of Interstate 77. And here is where US 21 and 176 splits off from US 321, as we're now getting signed for Orangeburg and Charleston, while there's a mileage sign for 321 southbound here. And here we split off from US Highway 176, as US 176 will take you down to Charleston because it parallels Interstate 26, while US 21 will be heading towards Orangeburg. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Orangeburg as our primary from 16 miles away. Also, why do we have these up arrows when we're already on US 21 and South Carolina 6? Here in Orangeburg, we meet with US Highway 178 and now getting signed for Branchville from exactly 21 miles away. Here we meet with US Highway 601 and we're now getting signed for Walterboro, which I think is an even better choice. Here we split off from US Highway 178 as US 178 will take you down to Charleston, while 21 is now still getting signed for Walterboro. And at the Business 21 junction here, we're getting 4 different control cities. We're getting Roseville on the top line, Branchville as the primary for the first sign, and then we're now also getting Walterboro and Savannah. So that is an awesome sign here in South Carolina. Well done. Here in Branchville, we're meeting with US Highway 78, and we're now getting signed for Walterboro and Savannah respectively. Here we meet with Interstate 95, getting signed for Florence and Savannah. And after that, we get another mileage time. We get Yemassee from 6 miles away and Beaufort from 31. But once we reunite with 17 alternate here, we do get Savannah now as our primary from 49 miles away, which is awesome. Here we meet with South Carolina Highway 68, and we're now getting signed for Beaufort once again from 26 miles away. And here's where we reunite with US Highway 17 as we're now getting signed for Beaufort because of 21, while 17 southbound will take you over to Interstate 95, getting signed for Savannah. In our next mileage time, we actually get Charleston as our primary for US 17. And sadly, I forgot to show this in my US 17 series, so here it is in US 21. Here's where US 21 splits off from US 17 to head south toward Beaufort. And here in Beaufort, not only do we get a US 21 seafood place, we also get a US 21 drive-in movie theater. And those are some actually pretty cool movie choices. The Little Mermaid, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, Super Mario Brothers, those are some cool movies. Here on Business US 21, here is downtown Beaufort. And here we get a 4-line mileage sign listing all the islands that US 21 will take you to, with us ending in Hunting Island, but the road continues down to Fripp Island. Here we cross over the causeway over the Harbor River once again and onto Hunting Island. And going this direction on US 21, we actually do get an end US 21 South Shield, so that is awesome by South Carolina here. I wonder why they don't have a end US 21 northbound on the same side of the road, but at least we do get an end southbound shield. So with that, we end US Highway 21 and we move on to all the places I'll go. So these are all the places that I visit if I ever was on more of US Highway 21. I'd love to visit the city of Beaufort and those seafood and drive-in movie theater places, along with Orangeburg, and I also like to visit downtown Columbia, and then Lake Watry in Great Falls, and then the city of Charlotte and its attractions, Lake Norman, the city of Statesville and its attractions, the town of Elkin, and then that overlook outside of Roaring Gap, and then finally Sparta, Independence, and Wytheville and their attractions. So that ends US Highway 21. Thank you all so much for watching this episode on US Highway 21. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about this highway. I certainly did. And I definitely, like I said, want to check out the seafood place and the US 21 drive-in movie theater in the city of Beaufort. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. So thank you guys for watching and I'll see you all next week as we head over to Cincinnati. Bye!